Professor Heydarian, thank you for joining us. Now, what is behind the calling of the building of U.S. military bases on Palawan? Help us understand the situation here.
Well, over the past 2 months, at least, there has been some confusion on whether the Duterte administration in the Philippines is going to give the green light or go ahead for the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, which was a carryover from the previous administration to be implemented. Initially, in early February 7, Secretary of Defense of the Philippines, Delfino Lorenzana, said that 3 major bases will be opened up to the Americans under the EDCA. One, of course, in the Palawan, the Bau'tista Air Base, and 2, the Basa Air Base and Lumbia Air Base in Pam'panga and Cagayan de Oro. So initially, the plan was to allow the Americans to preposition their equipment there, so long as those equipments have to do with humanitarian relief and disaster operations, and of course also to develop the facilities in the area. That is what Americans are allowed to do under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, but they're not allowed to build permanent structures in that area and create a permanent base in that area. But President Duterte, over the past month or so, has said that while he may be okay with the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement to be implemented, he's not okay with Americans prepositioning equipments there, because he feels that if America prepositions equipments there, that will violate the Philippine sovereignty and of course could undermine the Philippines' improving relationship, detente with China. So I think eventually there was a compromise, because the people within the Philippine military, I think including Defense Minister Lorenzana, wanted this Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement to push through, but the president wanted certain reconfigurations. So I think the final compromise was the Americans will be allowed to build facilities in the 2 air bases that are not facing directly China in the South China Sea, because the Bau'tista Air Base in Palawan is the closest one to the Spratly chain of islands, where China has a significant presence because of reclamation activities.
When President Duterte first came into power, he originally talked about scrapping altogether the EDCA, but now it seems that he has backtracked from that. Why the change of heart?
It's not so much a change of heart, but I think the president accepting certain basic reality. I think the first thing that he has recognized is that while it's important for the Philippines to improve relationship with China, it is also relevant for the Philippines to maintain robust security cooperation with the United States as a hedging strategy if ever things go south there in the South China Sea, if things go wrong in the South China Sea, because the Philippines doesn't have its own military capabilities to defend its interests. The second reason is, if for the lack of a better term, let's just say the pro-US lobby. America is very influential among the Philippine security establishment and also among the Filipino public. So I think even if the president himself wanted the Philippines to have less and less military cooperation with the US and to significantly downgrade that alliance, there was a very robust and concerted pushback by people within the military, within the security establishment, and the greater public, including the business community that is close to America, to at least make sure that the foundations of our military cooperation continue and that the EDCA will be implemented. So it's not a change of heart. It's more of this ongoing pull and push that is going between the president, who wants more freedom from the United States and more engagement with China, and on the other hand, you have this military and security establishment who want to maintain strong relations with US because they still have concerns with China in the South China Sea.
Now, to your knowledge, what has been the reaction from these forces that you have just described towards this latest decision not to build the airbase on Palawan? And secondly, we know that the Duterte government has indeed been trying to improve relations with China, as it needs the kind of Chinese investment to build infrastructure, for instance, a railway project linking much of the Philippines. So is Philippines trying to play a two-sided game to keep its relationship with China and with the United States good at the same time?
Well, I mean, first of all, most ASEAN countries do that, right? They maintain strong economic relationship with China, but either explicitly or quietly and surreptitiously, they maintain strong military relationship with the United States. That's the case with Vietnam, with Malaysia, Singapore, among others. So this is not unique to the Philippines. But what's unique in the Philippines is that even if it's a treaty ally of the United States, you now have a president who's very determined to find a common understanding with China. But so far, what has happened is that, on one hand, in fairness to President Duterte, his threats to downgrade relations with US has also partly materialized and in favor of China. For instance, two major military exercises, the FIBLEX amphibious exercises and the Karat exercises, which were very much directed towards China in the South China Sea, have been cancelled. In fact, the Balikatan exercises, which involves thousands of Filipino and American troops annually, the fate of that exercise is also now hanging in the balance. So a significant amount of joint military exercises, interoperability building exercises between the two allies have been downscaled. Not to mention, Duterte has disallowed Americans from using Filipino bases to conduct so-called freedom of navigation operations, which are clearly targeted against China more than any other country. And lastly, he has cancelled any plans for joint patrols with America. So some of his threats against distancing from US and engaging with China has come true. But the fact of the matter is that so far as the South China Sea is concerned, the Philippines and China have not finalized any agreement. And as far as China's pledges of major investments in the Philippines is concerned, they are yet to materialize. So now we're still in the level of conversation, but I think Duterte has still significantly downgraded relationship with America. But then again, much will also depend on how Trump and Duterte also reset their bilateral relations, because there's some slight possibility that under Trump administration, US will be less critical of Duterte's human rights record, his war on drugs, and in exchange, Duterte might be open to restoring some of the cancelled or downgraded aspect of their bilateral security relationship. So yes, you're right. To a certain degree, Duterte is planning to play the two sides, but this is going to be a very difficult balancing act. But, you know, this is what all ASEAN countries have been doing anyway, so there's nothing unique with what Duterte is doing here.